meetings. Going to meetings, turn your cell phones off and be at the meetings. Not looking for the girlfriend. Leave everything at the door outside of the meeting. Resign from the debating society and go in and listen with an open heart. And you'll make it. Short and sweet and simple, but you can't do it if you're not at the meetings. You'll miss the message.
I heard it through the grapevine.
Welcome. It's the AA Grapevine half-hour variety hour featuring the collected voices of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm Don, an alcoholic in Greensboro, North Carolina.
I'm Sam, an alcoholic in Palm Springs, California.
Sam, how are you?
I'm finer than frog hair. How are you?
Woo, I need a fine-tooth frog hair comb to be able to comb that mustache. It's so fine. I mean, it is mighty fine. Sam, it's the 1st of November.
Oh.
You know what that means?
Yes.
Oh.
It's time to release the chaos turkeys. Oh, wait, no. The new grapevine is here.
Grapevine's here. Woo! Catch a turkey. Woo! What's in this month's issue, Sam?
Oh, man, Don, in the past few years, the General Service Office has received inquiries from members on how to better communicate the AA program to members with neurodivergence, or as some of us indie folk like to say, neurospicy.
Neurospicy.
Neurodivergent is a term that describes people whose brains process information differently than most people. This can include autism, ADHD, dyslexia, social anxiety, OCD, Down syndrome, to name a few. This month, we feature powerful stories by our neurodivergent members about the challenges and strengths they experience in AA. There are also some wonderful Thanksgiving stories because the season of giving and gratitude is here.
It is. It's the season of gratitude. So we can all look forward to all those gratitude meetings.
Oh, Don, say it like you love it.
I actually do love it.
I
love
know you
do.
I think it's a common thing for us to groan about gratitude meetings because you're supposed to groan about a gratitude meeting, and it's not true.
It's not true, though. Every time someone goes, what's the topic? Gratitude. My first impulse is, oh, no. And then about halfway through, even almost immediately, it's like, I am so blessed to have the life that I have. So different than the pain and misery and hangovers that I used to live with every single day.
Without a doubt. Absolutely.
In the story Listening to Life, an autistic member shares how he experiences the world as if it were music.
Ooh.
Kind of cool.
In Pint-Sized, a guy too anxious to attend AA finally finds a home in a small meeting room.
Now, I love the photo with that article. It's on page 28. It's an unidentified meeting space. The chairs are set up in a squared circle formation, and in between each chair are handy little tables, I guess, towers made of 3 stacked 1-gallon used coffee cans, all duct taped together in a tower. So there's 3 cans duct taped to make a table. The perfect height for your coffee cup or water bottle. Very resourceful and a good use of those old cans.
I approve of this because you don't want to sit your coffee on the floor at the chair beside you, and I'll knock it over with my feet in a heartbeat because, I'm kind of klutzy that way. And
how often does it happen in a meeting? I think every meeting should provide a little tower next to every chair. Well, we need cup holders in AA meetings.
Because we have drinking problems.
Yeah. And just because I quit drinking doesn't mean that I'm not thirsty.
Yes, because we do know that you like to have a hot drink, a sweet drink, and a not sweet drink.
Yeah, I want 3 cup holders around my chair.
Oh, gosh. In Different But Not Different, a woman with Down syndrome discovers that when it comes to alcoholism, she's just like everyone else. And in a lovely holiday tale, a newcomer dad gets back the family job of honor in the turkey carver.
Sam, can you do that turkey sound effect again? Right. And I hear the message. We discover how hard it is for a newcomer who can't read to access the literature back in 1970. That's before cell phones and the internet, folks. But after 4 months of regular attendance at his home group, someone in the meeting gave him a brown paper bag of cassette tapes. The fellow had personally recorded the entire big book to tape as a gift.
Wow.
Amazing.
And this author is our guest today, the author of I Hear the Message. We welcome Mack MC from Pitcairn, Pennsylvania. His story is on page 18 of the November 2024 issue.
Or in the app.
It is in the app.
It's in the app. Wait, well, should we have a little bumper that we always
We need
play?
a jingle. We need an app jingle.
We need an app jingle. It's in the app.
And that is where we need folks to call in an app jingle. Come on, folks. Come up with some little app jingle. Call the number. Go to aagrapevine.org/podcast, and you'll find the number there. Call it in, and let's see what we get. This could be fun, Don.
Yeah, that'd be good. It's a handy little grapevine app. It's in the app.
All right. Well, here is the news. The International Convention is approaching fast. The Grapevine wants to know what AA is like in other cities and countries around the globe. How is it different? How is it the same? Do you attend AA outside of the US and Canada? Have you helped AA get started somewhere? Let's hear from you. Stories are due by December 15th, 2024. Go to aagrapevine.org/share.
Grapevine welcomes reports on state conventions, workshops, and other major AA events for AA News. We'd also like to hear about the different ways that your area, district, or committee is doing service or carrying the message. Email stories to gveditorial@aagrapevine.org. And now, we're here with Rainer L., GSO's staff member on the literature desk. Hi, Rainer.
Hello, Don. Great to see you.
What does GSO staff member on the literature desk mean?
So essentially what we 12 GSO staff members are the special workers from our 8th tradition. AA is non-professional, but we may employ special workers, and we get to be the hands and the feet of the movement of Alcoholics Anonymous.
You're the hands and the feet, and the brain would be the General Service Conference?
Group conscience in general, but
yes,
the General Service Conference in particular.
So the Plain Language Big Book came out November 1st. What is the Plain Language Big Book?
There are a lot of people who have voiced a concern that this came out of left field.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think that there's a larger history which really established a practice in Alcoholics Anonymous of plain and simple language. I can go back to the 1960s when we started making comic book pamphlets. We talk about raising the bottom to a point where it could hit a young person, scarcely more than a potential alcoholic. We did the same thing with our literature. In the 70s, we started removing original pamphlets and replacing them with simplified versions. In the 80s, we started talking about language being rewritten in simpler styles. The pamphlet The 12 Steps Illustrated, which was written in 1991, at the top of the page it says 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. And then it's got a great illustration of a guy getting crushed underneath a bottle. And at the bottom, our plain and simple language says, the bottle had me down. My life is a mess.
Mm.
To me, that is not an alteration of step 1. Along the way, we were using film strips, audio cassettes, video cassettes, different things to try to remove literacy as a barrier from an alcoholic in need. There's a long history in Alcoholics Anonymous of trying to present our message in a way which is meaningful and impacting to the alcoholic who needs us.
And all of this is to reach out to the still suffering alcoholic who doesn't know anything about AA. What can I do to get sober? Can AA help?
Yes, the entire function of everything we do in service should be how can we carry a more effective message? While the message should not change, our means of communicating it, as Bill would say, or did, can and should go on changing forever for the better.
So the plain language big book is an additional piece of literature, not to replace the big book.
It is a tool to help a person find a better understanding of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, to provide a point from which they can grow to a deeper understanding and practice.
I've worked with numerous sponsees. I said, well, look up any word you don't understand. And we would be looking up in the dictionary, reading the big book, or the 12 and 12, the 12 steps and 12 traditions. We would have to be looking up 3 words every paragraph. And I found it easier to just read it and then simply restate what we read again, because frankly, they didn't understand anything that was being read.
With years of study and what I thought was a healthy education, I'm still learning what the words in our big book mean. I just learned in the last week that prosaic is not this lofty term that I thought. It's mundane, ordinary, and everyday.
I love all the words, but I'm excited for this book because I think it will be a really useful tool in working with newcomers. So what's the history of the plain language big book? Where did the idea come from?
So the idea began with a proposed agenda item in 2016, which led to the Plain Language Big Book, a tool for reading Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to go a half step back. In 2008, there was a proposal from an area to develop a booklet with an up-to-date style of writing in a simple, basic language to explain the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous to preteens, teens, mentally challenged, those with literacy problems, members using English as a second language, and members in early sobriety. So fundamentally not a new idea. 2016, when the item reemerged, there began to be studies in terms of how people were accessing information about AA. So after several years of gathering background and collective experience from within Alcoholics Anonymous, in 2021, the General Service Conference approved an advisory action to produce a plain and simple language translation of the first 164 pages. That process received a degree of review by Alcoholic Eyes, which I think is really unlike any other book project that I'm aware of.
Yeah, it was drafts were submitted to the conference and delegates read the drafts and
in just a historic way.
So the plain language big book was requested by the fellowship through the delegates at the conference to develop some new literature, and that's what we have now.
Yes. In Alcoholics Anonymous, we have a service structure which is an upside-down triangle. The groups are at the top. The groups, through the collective group conscience, are in charge of the future of Alcoholics Anonymous. When our services function best, they are receiving the direct guidance, we call it clearly stated needs, from the groups. And that was where this project began. And this may be an odd thought, but one of the big arcs of my sobriety has been, a growth from a selfish focus on what can I do and what am I getting, to a genuine concern of others. And so when I look at the pamphlet a newcomer asks is not really for me at this point. But that doesn't mean that it isn't for somebody and that we shouldn't be producing it. Life and Alcoholics Anonymous is much bigger than me.
So this new book, what do you think the benefit is going to be to the members and potential members?
So one of the thoughts that I had about this recently has to do with our translations in general. So we have the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, available in 75 languages around the world. We have some part of AA literature available in 109 different international languages. There are members who need literature that's written in their language, and we have members within the US and Canada who speak in everyday plain English. I think by offering this tool, we have an opportunity to carry an effective message to a newcomer, to the loner, or in a more remote area where perhaps they don't have the same access to meetings that I did getting sober in Asheville, North Carolina, surrounded by AA groups, to members in custody. The lucky ones may have access to a meeting a week. There's an opportunity to present a message to a member in a form that they can understand.
Mm.
If I am at a 5-day detox trying to dry out and somebody hands me a big book and say, hey, read this, there's a middle option, which has the proven experience of Alcoholics Anonymous contained in our first 164 pages, represented with a different accessibility. I just had this sort of flash in my head of me walking into a detox to speak with a new member and letting them know it'll be okay. You will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. I love those words,
Yes.
but that is not the way that I would speak to a new member. I would tell them that there was a fellowship of people like them who understood where they were, who have found a way out. And so the language that we use in speaking to each other is not necessarily the language of the big book. We have recognized that there's a need for a different simplicity, the same message of depth and weight, but rephrased through the individual perspective. That's what a 12th step call is.
Beautiful. People who don't know you, I kind of think of you as the Neil deGrasse Tyson of AA, able to express the cosmic perspective of recovery. And you've just done it. Thanks, Rainer.
I would love to hear from as many people as possible. Once they start having experience reading the book, please write the literature assignment, literature@aa.org, and let us know what you think. And I am tremendously excited to hear now from people who have had a chance to read the book.
Thanks, Rainer.
Thank you so much.
The Plain Language Big Book is now available. It's intended to help readers better understand the book Alcoholics Anonymous, fondly called the Big Book by AA members. It's considered the basic text of the AA program of recovery. This new book describes AA's 12-step program in simpler language than the original book, which was published in 1939.
The Plain Language Big Book presents in a simpler language
the ideas contained in the Big Book, Alcoholics Anonymous.
Specific AA-related words and phrases used in the original 1939 book.
Vocabulary in the original book that may be dated or not familiar to readers.
And the core content of the original Big Book without member stories, often called the abridged edition.
The Plain Language Big Book is AA General Service Conference approved literature and is available now for $11.
And as always, AA encourages ordering our literature via your local distribution sources, groups, districts, intergroups, and central offices, as they play a vital role in local 12-step activities.
I'm Mack, and I'm an alcoholic, and my sobriety date is December the 23rd of 1970. My home group is the Monroeville Friday night meeting in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. I also am a member of the Canadian-U.S. Zoom meeting. We meet every day at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Is that Eastern time?
Eastern time, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. It's 7 in Canada.
Mack, I got to start off with one quick question. Now, this is a republishing of your story that was originally published in a 2014 issue of the Grapevine. What was it like to write a story and send it into the Grapevine?
Well, I was telling one of the girls that I would like to write a story, but I can't. She said that she would take a dictation and we would send it into Grapevine. And Grapevine published it, much to my surprise.
So you just gave a share that was your story like you would at a speaker meeting.
Right.
It's really a simple thing to do, to submit an article or a story to the Grapevine. You can do it in so many different ways. We're really glad that you did it, Mack. When I read your story, it's a short story.
Yeah.
And it just hit me right in the heart. I
Mhm.
mean, the way that folks showed up for you in recording this material so that you could be informed about it and have it, it brought tears to my eyes. What was your experience going through this?
Getting sober, everybody just seemed to fall in place. He did for me what I couldn't do for myself. I went to special ed and they made lots of fun. So in AA, I didn't say I couldn't read. I
Mhm.
just, when they gave me the steps to read, I said no. And pretty soon they kept arguing with me. You got to do it. But I couldn't say I couldn't read. And so I passed it to my friend on the right or somebody to the left. And when they called on me, the person read it. So I guess they put two and two together after a while and figured I couldn't read. My group asked me to be the secretary, and I said, "Oh no, I can't do that. I can't read." And I only told a couple of people, and they said, "We'll help you," and they helped me. And I was secretary for 2 years in a row.
Wow.
I love how simply you share what is such an integral part of Alcoholics Anonymous. They helped me.
Yeah, like my sponsor, there was nothing that I could say. Well, I can't do that. He said, "Yes, you can." They called me they called me up to share my story, and I said, "No, no, I can't share my story. I'm only 6 months sober." And when it was time to start the meeting, they said, "Mack's the lead," and I got up and I talked for an hour and 20 minutes, which was not the norm. It's only like 45 minutes, and nobody said anything. There was like 50 people in the room, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I took a fifth step in front of everybody. And the guy who brought me to my first meeting put his arm around me and hugged me and said, "You did fine, and you're going to speak for me on Tuesday night." I went up and I spoke. I had a lot of pictures and stuff that I took in the military and where I was drinking. So I took a stack of pictures and I put some at each table and I said, "You look at the pictures and I'll tell the story."
Oh,
And I have never seen a show and tell meeting in AA yet.
that's the first I've ever heard of one.
Well,
Oh, that's a fantastic thing, Mac. I love that.
Yes.
I did it. And everybody, they just looked at the pictures, they laughed and hugged me and didn't say you were crazy. Whatever made you think of doing something like that. They just loved me.
That's beautiful. Did you speak for an hour and a half again?
No, 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 because there was, at 10 o'clock, there's a fire whistle goes off, and you know to shut up.
They blew the alarm. They're sensible. You got to have a timekeeper with Mac.
Yeah, I heard something in North Carolina when I was getting sober where a lot of the speaker meetings are at 8 o'clock at night for an hour.
Yeah,
And they would say, you'll never have to be alone again unless you're still speaking after 9 o'clock.
That's right. I've had the impulse to bring a painting that I did. So I got sober May 30th, and it was Memorial Day that year. And I had decided I'm going to go to an AA meeting, which was at 8 o'clock that night. And it was the longest day of my life waiting to go to that meeting, I can tell you, because I knew what was involved. This was about quitting drinking. I had friends in AA, and I had called one of them who was going to take me. So I'm an artist. I spent the day doing a painting, which I didn't realize at the time was really an illustration of a first step, taking a step into the unknown. It was a little kid. It was a photograph that I had taken, and I used that of a 3-year-old looking down, stepping into a puddle of water that had a reflection, and you can see the 3-year-old in the water and it's a beautiful little painting. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was definitely stepping into the unknown. So to have a visual example of that as I look back on it is what it is. So I like the idea of doing that.
Don, if you still have that painting, let's post a photo of it on Instagram with this episode.
Yes, I have a photo of it.
Folks, look for it on Instagram.
So, Mac, what was your experience coming to AA? Was it stepping into the unknown?
I don't know. I was nudged by my employer at age 25 to come to AA, and my union store brought me, and I was drinking that day, and they had me join the group that night, and then 3 guys took me hostage, I think they were fighting over a new pigeon. They took me to a meeting every night for a year and a half, but during that year and a half, I auditioned for AA. I would drink and stay sober and drink and stay sober. And then on December 23rd, I took my last drink. And even when my wife squealed on me and said I was drinking, they said they'll be there at 7:30 to pick you up because the meetings were at 8. And the three of them would nursemaid me. I didn't go through treatment or anything. They just kept bringing me. And I came to, and I come to believe,
Mack, what do you think was different about that last drink on December 23rd, 1970?
Well, I went into the plant where I worked. It was their Christmas party. I had been sober like a couple of weeks, and I had announced to everybody that I had not drinking anymore, but I got drunk and I passed out. And 7 o'clock in the morning, when my colleagues carried me out of the plant and they dropped me off at my front door, my wife was really, really upset. When's he going to stop this bullshit?
Bleepity bleep.
And so I went to my home group and I told them what had happened, and they loved me into the program.
After that last drink, how long was it before you started working the steps?
I really haven't worked the steps. I live the steps, and I go to meetings on it every day. I have not missed a meeting in the 53 years that I've been sober. I got a mountain of knowledge. Every time I have a problem back here in my head, the solution comes up because I've heard it somewhere. I've heard it on the podcast or heard it in a meeting.
And so the program has shown up in your life by experiencing it through listening.
Right. Like I did my 5th step in front of 45 people, and I've shared my story many, many times, but never like I did that first time. And a friend of mine would go to the monastery and do 5 steps, and he kept asking me to go. And I kept saying, I didn't want nothing to do with that Catholic stuff. And I went to the monastery and see him, and then I seen a monk, Brother Chris, and I said, would you hear my 5th step? And he said, yeah, go to room so-and-so. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, he told me to go down to the chapel and reflect on what I had said and what I had done. And that was my 5th step. So, but I didn't realize those things were the numbers. These were just incidents that happened to me.
You didn't know you were doing it when you were doing it.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was doing what I was doing.
It sounds like you have a conflicted feelings about the monastery and about the church.
I went to a convention at 4 months sober, and I seen something and felt something at this convention. And on Sunday, they had a program, Scottish Understand Them. But the facilitator, Sam, he said that if you didn't have a God, you could borrow his. I didn't recognize or realize at the time that I had made a commitment to borrow his God. 8 years at the same convention, on a Sunday morning, I got the opportunity to go up to the podium and share with them that I had borrowed his God and he could have the God back because I have my own now. And so the Catholic thing has melted away, and there's a new higher power.
That's beautiful.
We tend to ask a question. Is there something that AA asked you to do that just felt like, no, that's too much. I don't want to do that. And I think that you just answered that in talking about finding your own higher power.
There has never been anything that I have turned down. I've been asked to do many things that I never dreamt that I would be the chairperson at a convention, and have to ask people to come up and share. I never dreamt that I'd be in charge of a hospitality room. Oh. I never dreamt that I'd be recording Loners Internationalist meetings for 20 years.
Tell us about the Loners International meetings.
Oh, it's like, in Akron, Ohio, they come in after the Founders Day convention. There's like 25 or 30 of them, and they've never met each other before. They've corresponded by mail. They got sober with a big book. And some of them were been like 5 years writing letters back and forth. It was such an inspirational meeting, gathering.
These are people who
got sober and stayed sober by writing back and forth and never being at an AA meeting for a number of years or even meeting the person that they wrote to.
Oh, wow.
And so the one couple, they had a barge and they would leave in the spring and they would go out and they'd harvest the lumber. And her husband were both in AA. and they both had people that they wrote to. And the plane would deliver their mail once a week, and they would split their mail up. And each night they would have a meeting at 7 o'clock, and they would read one letter in each, and then they would write the person. Well, when you get a chance to meet them people in person, and you just awe that someone could get sober. It's one person to another person. Like I was in Germany just 3 weeks ago, and I went to an English speaking meeting there. There was 15 people there. Everywhere I go, if I have a chance to go to a meeting, my son-in-law drove me down to the meeting and picked me up. My family's very supportive of me, and why are you going to meetings after being sober 53 years? I drank every day, so why wouldn't I go to a meeting? It's only an hour. I used to spend 10, 12, 15 hours in the bar. Here I'm only to give you 2 hours.
Yes.
And I love to go to meetings when I travel too. I totally get you on there. It's wonderful to meet these fellows in recovery that are around the world. Mack, you've shared some really interesting things already, but I'm curious. I mean, we're talking a long time in recovery, 53 years. Is there one special moment that just like right this moment pops to mind is like, this was a really amazing experience that never would have happened if I were not a member of Alcoholics Anonymous and sober?
The International Convention in New Orleans. I was 9 years sober, and I went on a bus trip with 45 other people, and it was a real adventure. And a friend of mine, Jack, he says, I need a roommate. And I stayed on Bourbon Street with Jack. I had started to make medallions whenever I got sober. A guy gave me a coin that said, think before you drink. Made up 500 of them. I said to Jack, just give those away, And I realized there's 20,000 people here. How am I going to do this? And so I decided that at the meeting, I would put one in each hand anonymously, and then I'd move away so they couldn't ask where or how come or what. I went to the Superdome, and the Parade of Nations was rehearsing. And so I ran back to my room, and I filled my pockets up, and I went back, and while they made the circle 8, I put one in each of their pocket, and they couldn't say anything because they were holding their flag. And now God is so good, I got them around the world for free.
I love that. What a fabulous story.
Wow.
New Orleans is my favorite, and I beg people to go to the internationals.
You've been to all of them?
I've been to 7, and this is going to be number 8.
So we're going to see you in Vancouver as well. That's wonderful.
Oh, yeah, you're going to see me in Vancouver.
So, Mack, what does a week in your recovery look like today?
I was a nursing aide at the Veterans Hospital, a psych hospital, for 20 years, and I retired. I went back to work, and I take care of a 99-year-old. I've taken care of him for 10 years. I've been his buddy for 10 years, and he's a Holocaust survivor. And I pick him up, and I take him to the gym, and he exercises, and we go into the shower room, and I help him get undressed. We both take a shower. I help him get dressed. I get dressed. We go upstairs. We have a senior citizen lunch for $1.50, and I take him home. Then I go to a meeting or do whatever I need at home with my wife and family. But I always have time for a meeting.
And what I'm hearing is you have time to be of service to people.
Right. Even though it's not an AA member, he's an individual. He's a wonderful man, and I'm proud to. I get paid too. I get a check each week, so it's a win-win situation.
Well, Mack, this has been wonderful meeting you and getting to talk to you. Thanks for writing into the Grapevine.
So happy to have chatted with you, Mack. I can't wait to see you at the International Convention in Vancouver.
I can't wait to hear how you put this together.
The Grapevine strives to be self-supporting.
Please subscribe to the magazine or app and visit the Grapevine online store.
The app is free in your phone's app store and has great content and features provided at no cost to you.
But if you subscribe, you get so much more. And you support all things Grapevine, including this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Only $2.99 a month. I'm at the very wit's end. Cuckoo.
Why shouldn't I worry?
Worrying is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere.
It's really not that funny. Thanks for joining us. The AA Grapevine Half-Hour Variety Hour is posted every Monday and is produced by AA Grapevine, Inc. We don't speak for AA as a whole. We share the experience, strength, and hope of members to help others recover from alcoholism. All things Grapevine are available at aagrapevine.org, including our app and how to get in touch with us. Find us on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to know more about AA, visit aa.org or search online for Alcoholics Anonymous and your city.